Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by... Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Good afternoon, Stuart, Florida. We are here. Welcome to Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Frank Mezzapel, and I've got two South Fork High School students here from the Youth and Government program and also from so many other activities that you guys do there. You have the Turning Point USA. You just signed up for that.
Yep.
So we've got Landon in the house, and
Jamae
is here, and she's sitting in for Cassidy, who is Cassidy Fowler is out sick with the flu. I'm guessing, or flu-like symptoms.
Something
right?
Like that.
Yeah, she got the bug. So we hope she feels better soon. But this is radio, so we press on. And what do you got for us to chat about this afternoon?
I wanted to start out with some local news.
All right.
So our school district has decided to make next year's bell schedule into a 7-period schedule, I believe, instead of a block schedule that we have this year.
All right. So for our listeners like myself that didn't grow up with the block scheduling, why don't you describe both and compare and contrast?
Sure. So the block scheduling is basically we have 3 periods that are 45 minutes each at the end of the day that don't change. We have every day. And our first 2 periods change every other day. We call them A day and B day, and they're about 90 minutes each. Now, our school district wants to change it to a different schedule where we would have every class for about 45 minutes, I believe. Yeah. Every day. So, I guess there's good sides and bad sides to the situation, but
so the when you guys finish your classes, roughly right now under the block scheduling, you're done at 3:00, right?
Yeah. So next year they wanted to change it to 3:05.
3:05 because you need a couple of minutes to transit between classes.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why.
I guess.
Well,
of course, I'm not excited about that.
Unless you've developed a Star Trek transporter, that's probably the best way to spend a couple of minutes to walk between classes.
One of these days.
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
As you could probably guess, our students aren't really happy about this new schedule.
Yeah. Well, human existence revolves around dislike of change.
Yeah.
But the one thing you will discover in life is change is constant. Nothing stays the same. Look, how many generations of phones have you owned in your 16 years of lifespan?
Well, considering I crack mine at least once a month,
right?
Too many.
Too many. But okay, let's talk about different generations of phones.
Yeah.
Quite a few, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it takes you a little bit of learning curve to get up to speed on each one.
Oh, yeah. They're all pretty different.
Right. So that's why people are by nature resistant to change. It's like, oh man, I just got used to this process.
Yeah. I think we've really had like a new bell schedule like every year.
Well, the thing is, the best bell schedule was originally the 7-period blocks, and then they changed it to the 3 to 4 blocks. They're now realizing that that's not working as well as they thought it would, so they're going back to the 7 bell schedule.
Okay, I see. I know when my sisters, and I think your brother was in high school, like they had the A and B day.
Yeah, so they had that, and then
they changed
now
it.
We're in high school and it's half and half. So half of our classes are the block classes that we have every other day.
Yeah.
And the other half we have every day. So they're trying to transition us into the everyday.
Oh, okay.
Because before, originally, when in the olden days,
5 years ago.
Yeah, they had the 7 blocks every day. and then they changed it to 3 blocks every other day. So you'd have 3 blocks one day, and then you'd have the other classes the next day, and it kept rotating.
Mhm.
And then now they changed it for us freshman year. We were the first year that they did the half and half, and now they're trying to transition us back into the 7 every day.
Okay. So are you a fan of this new schedule, Landon?
I mean, for me personally, it doesn't affect me that much because the classes that I have every other day, they don't assign that much work, and most classes are totally online. So there's a lot of classes where you don't even really need to show up to do well in the class. But I think the problem that most people have with it is they think that having 7 classes every day is going to create a larger workload. Like, I know that's your
Yeah.
problem with it, but I don't know that teachers will assign that much more than they are now.
Yeah, that makes sense considering we won't have anthro next year.
Yeah.
'Cause I know that's a pretty big workload for us this year.
Anthropology.
Yeah,
Ooh.
anthropology. It's
I would love that class.
really.
Oh, absolutely.
It's an interesting subject,
Yeah.
but like a lot of classes are very interesting as subjects, but the way some of them are taught and the way that teachers assign work makes it less than desirable for students.
For sure.
A
Like,
lot of reading, right?
yeah.
I mean, how many
Yeah.
chapters do you have to read a night?
Too many. Oh my God. And she assigns these packets that we have to do and turn them in the next
Mhm.
day. We have her. And if I had her, which I will, because I'm planning on taking AP Psych next year, and it's the
Oh,
same
wow.
teacher. So having her every day is gonna be not great. She's a nice lady though.
Yeah.
I like her.
Good.
But
You'll learn a lot.
mm,
As long as you learn stuff, right?
I guess sure. Yeah, but hopefully it won't be too bad. I'm just worried because I feel like there are teachers that are gonna want to assign work every night and have it due the next day, and I'm just not wanting
You're
to
not
do
feeling
that.
it. Yeah.
But at the same time, they're experiencing the same change also. So I think
True.
for them, the transition will be the same as it is for us. I don't know that they're going to assign more work per se, because then that creates more work for them also. So, and even now with the block schedules, a lot of our teachers feel like they're overwhelmed with how much they do,
Mm.
despite having their students every other day, not all of them every day. So I think,
So there's some pushback to administration, even from the teachers.
yeah, a lot of our teachers aren't in support of it either. They don't like it either. And I think for that reason, I think the workload will stay relatively similar to what it is now.
That seems
Because,
like a reasonable analysis.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah. Stand by. We will find out more next year, right?
for sure.
Now, does that start the next school year, or does it start the next?
next school year.
I'm pretty sure next school year. Yeah.
Right.
No, I don't know. I've some teachers that I've talked to liked it, but like 45 minutes a class is not that long of a time. Like I know in Spanish, like
It isn't. It really isn't.
yeah,
But the nice thing is you get to pick up that class the following day.
true. I have a pretty short attention span, so a 90-minute period is terrible.
And
for
that's
me.
the argument by the administration and by the school district is that
Exactly.
students can't focus for more than 45 minutes. So make the classes that long, and then they'll be able to pay better attention.
Retain more information.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is true to a
It's all
certain
about
extent.
retention, really.
Yeah, it's true to a certain extent, but at the same time, there are some classes where you watch videos or you do a reading and then you discuss it as a class. So taking away that extra 45 minutes for those classes makes it so that you have to watch the video or do the reading one class or at home and then talk about it the next day, which retaining that information would be harder than it would be if you had the full 90 minutes.
True, like our English class, how
Yeah.
we're watching that documentary on Tiananmen Square. Yeah, the other class that has her, like, they finished the documentary like 2 class periods ago,
Mhm.
and it's definitely made us fall behind quite a bit. And that's kind of a big issue in our class right now. We're having quite a few.
And that's another big problem that we have with the schedule this year with the half and half schedule
Mm.
is some of our class, like our year's class has the same teacher for a full 90 minutes and the other only for 45. So the 45-minute class falls behind because the 90-minute class has more time to do things like watch videos and documentaries and such.
Yeah. Pretty cool. All right. On to our next topic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because we alluded to that a little bit when you mentioned Tiananmen. So you want to talk about
True.
Hong Kong?
Why not?
All right.
Yeah. So from what I've learned, the Hong Kong riots are definitely picking up in violence right now,
Yeah.
which is kind of scary. Definitely paralleling the Tiananmen situation. And after watching that documentary in English, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it hits harder
Yeah.
for sure. Like growing up with my mom, like it's not something you can explain. It's not like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's very difficult to put yourself in their shoes when you live in a democratic country, but like the very thing that these people like lost their lives for, everyone takes for granted, you know?
Exactly right.
And after watching the documentary in English, like I definitely learned about it in a whole new light, because you hear like all these people died and it was for this and it's for that, and it's like, okay, cool, you know? But like seeing all the first, like the amateur films and like the recordings and stuff, like seeing all the young people, like the college students,
right?
yeah, and how the city like fell in love with their students, like their kids that were like fighting for their country, you know, and how everyone just came together as like one, like that definitely put a whole new light on the
It was
situation.
like synergy of spirit, right?
Yeah.
And people who know about the tragedy at Tiananmen, the things going on in Hong Kong now, like seem worse because
sure.
it's paralleling a lot of the things that happened at Tiananmen and a lot of the situations that were the events that happened leading up to the massacre.
So the difference between Tiananmen and Hong Kong is that you've got professionals, people that work in the finance industry.
Yeah.
You've got doctors, lawyers, older people that are not college students. They're out there protesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that is for me, a more interesting dynamic.
For sure. Like this time, instead of having the college students started and then like bring everyone else in, it was sort of like everyone went for it at once.
Seems to be a kind of a national awakening. Mm-hmm.
It's really nice to see people come together from disliking one thing and trying to change it together. It's really, I don't know, heartwarming.
Gratifying, heartwarming. Sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the threat, the danger.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
And during the documentary, they said that out of fear of the government, because to this day, like China has not changed much at all. But the protesters, they avoid telling their kids the stories and telling them things that happened in Tiananmen for their own safety, you know, because it's still not like a talked about thing over there for sure.
No.
Yeah, it's but
and also the government is repressing the media from talking about it.
Yeah.
It's not, you're just not supposed to talk about it.
Right.
And watching it, I know that like here we have like fake news and everything, and it's like a big problem.
Right.
But fake news has a whole different meaning in a communist country, because parts of the documentary really like illustrated how the government really like fed its people the news. Like they were like, no one died, everything's fine, nothing happened, it was just a little messy, you know, but we got everyone out and no one's dead. But clearly like thousands of people died, and that's the scary part, that they could shield their people from something like this, you know?
And the government also, in the time leading up to the actual Tiananmen event, the government had told the military that the protesters were becoming violent and becoming not just protesters, but rioters, and that they were instigating the violence, which kind of gave the military a reason to attack so
Yeah.
intensely.
That's another thing that differs in this situation, because I know there are a few protesting the protest, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
which is definitely
They're
different.
more loyal to mainland China.
Yeah.
And
We're just trying to avoid the violence.
so the suggestion that I've been reading online is that a lot of the pro mainland China protesters or the folks that are actually committing some of the violent acts are not the Hong Kong residents, are people that are brought in
Really?
to foment all that chaos.
I haven't heard of that. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
That is an interesting dynamic, which again, to Landon's point, what happens is, so you've got this violence, so the government says, okay, well, we have no choice. But actually
There's
the
definitely
suggestion
choice.
is that it's not really the protesters that are creating the
There
problem.
was an article written by Time Magazine about an attack by a group of triads in a train station, in which the triads attacked bystanders and civilians in a train station. And
Okay. And for our listening audience, explain to them what the triads are.
the triads are like the Hong Kong mob. They're a gang of violent criminals. And there are actually suspicions that the government is, in a way, employing the triads to keeping,
Active agents.
in ways that the government can't publicly do.
Right.
And I think that really shows how it's not always the protesters and the rioters, quote unquote rioters, instigating violence. It's the government not wanting to be opposed and wanting to maintain order.
Right.
Wow.
So the government says, okay, there's a problem here because they've created it. And but guess what? It's all right because the government can fix that problem.
Yeah, they're kind of using this man-made violence to justify their actions. That's kind of scary.
It is.
Wow.
That's the suggestion of what's going on. In the meantime, there really are legitimate, concerns that the Hong Kong residents have
For
that
sure.
they earnestly want to have addressed.
And the protesters, if you look at video footage of the protests themselves, there are protesters being violent, and there's several videos you can see protesters throwing Molotovs, flaming bottles at police, but those are the extremes. In general, like there's hundreds of thousands of people in these protesters, and a very small minority are being violent. There's usually 3 or 4 that are instigating violence and then receiving violence as a response.
Right. Yeah.
And just like in Tiananmen, like the protesters are definitely finding a sense of community with other protesters. Like I read an article from The Guardian, I think, and it was about how these Hong Kong students that were protesting, they have like American visas, and they can like go back and forth and like if they need to, if it gets too violent or if they don't want to, but they have this like faith in their people, and they want to stay and fight, and almost to make those lost in Tiananmen proud, if that makes sense.
It continues to give the
Yeah.
whole notion of freedom purpose.
And make the difference that should have been made in Tiananmen now, I guess.
And really, so the United States Congress is both houses have passed a bill.
Yeah.
It's going to be going on to the president's desk for signage. And the bill is basically in support of the Democratic protests to try to create more of a democracy movement within Hong Kong.
Yeah. I just pulled up an article from the South China Morning Post, a Chinese source, and they're talking about how the bill is now on Trump's desk and
Mhm.
how he's not likely to veto it. So,
Well, and the reason why he's not, and this is true, this is really, I also read this on the American press. And the reason is both houses of Congress have signed on with enough, it's a veto proof bill.
that's good.
So, so it would just not be good form for the president to, to not sign it. It would really give more strength, to his administration and to the cause, I think, for him to sign the bill and in cooperation with both houses of Congress.
Mhm. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because even if he didn't sign it or he vetoed it, they would override the veto.
So, with the implementation of this bill, what would happen for Hong Kong?
It's merely nothing. It's merely a political support tool,
Okay.
so that it puts the United States on record that we in fact do support the pro-democracy movement, and we feel it's a good thing.
Okay.
And I think that's, whereas I think we fell short during Tiananmen as
For
a government. We I think back then there was a little naivete on the part of, and up until probably this administration, there was a lot of naivete in that most of the domestic governments felt that if they allowed China a little bit of latitude, they would figure it out and democratize on their own.
Yeah.
That was the fervent wish that just has not come to fruition.
Yeah, I guess not. Next topic.
Yeah, let's mention what that topic will be.
Cool. So I found an article on Netanyahu.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been charged with
Bribery and some other charges, right?
bribery, if it'll load.
Yeah.
Bribery, fraud, and breach of trust.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that after the break.
Righto. So stick with us. We'll be right back. We will return
Cool.
after these messages. So stick with us.
Sounds good.
welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hey, great. Good job.
Nice.
All right. All right. So,
So we're back with our new
Mhm.
topic.
Mhm.
Netanyahu was charged with bribery, breach of trust, and fraud.
wow. Three
Yeah.
pretty heavyweight charges.
Now, for those that don't know, Netanyahu is the prime minister of Israel.
That is correct.
Cool.
You asked that you said that as a question. Yes.
Whoops.
Yes,
I knew
but you
that.
are. Yes.
But yeah, so I think there's 3 separate cases against him. And we can kind of run through those.
Yes, sure.
Cool. So case 1 is case 4000, and it's a 57-page filing. This one's about the bribery and breach of trust. So Netanyahu advanced regulatory benefits worth more than 1 billion shekels, which is approximately 280 million in US dollars, to his friend, the millionaire Shaul Elavich, who owned a news website. This exchange caused Netanyahu to receive like favorable news coverage on his friend's news website.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, so pretty much this was a bribe to get good news about him.
All right. Favorable news.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty wild. So apparently this wasn't a one-time interaction between the two. It's intensive, frequent, and extraordinary, according to CNN World News. Yeah.
So to be fair, additionally, CNN is no big fan of Netanyahu is either. So
For sure.
yeah. So I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So
It's interesting. I mean, any other news sources have picked up that article? I'm curious if anybody else has picked
Yeah.
that up.
so far this is the one that I found. We
Mhm.
could do a quick search, but the other 2 cases against him,
Mhm.
case 1000 and 2000, are also from fraud and breach of trust, of course. But case 1000 is about Netanyahu receiving gifts from overseas businessmen,
Mhm.
including expensive cigars, champagne, which later turned into a supply line. So the value of gifts were approximately $200,000, coming from Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan
Mhm.
and an Australian businessman, James Packer. So they were made at Netanyahu and his wife's request in exchange for well, it froze.
Oh no!
Yep.
Don't you hate when that
Oh well.
happens?
Yeah. But this investigation has been going on for a while, right?
So yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Now Netanyahu, they just had an election not too long ago,
Yeah.
and this conversation had bubbled up prior to the election, and he got elected anyways, although he lost some seats in the Knesset, which is their Congress.
hmm
And so it'll be interesting to see if he gets a no confidence vote or what happens going forward.
Yeah.
Because just like the Italian government, it's really built as a lot of these governments are formed as coalitions. I know the English Parliament is the same way. It's a coalition government,
Yeah.
different parties. So
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Well, I've been scanning while you've been talking. I've been looking at, and there is in the Fox website, there is a world news. And of course, they talked about Hong Kong standoff nearing an end as more protesters have surrendered to police.
Oh dear.
So that's kind of an interesting thing.
That is.
The standoff between police and anti-government protesters inside Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Okay, so what had happened over the past few days, they've been locked into there. They could not, nobody could come or go from that university. And but now I guess they are surrendering so they can get out. because they've been stranded there for days.
Oh dear.
So, I mean, probably hungry, and
So were they like starving the kids?
they basically, froze them out. They were there. I mean, they're, nothing going in, nothing going out. I mean, it's not a bad way not a good way to go.
No, it's
So
not.
they had few choices.
That's kind of reminiscent of the hunger strike in Tiananmen, except it's not the protesters' idea, I
Yeah,
guess.
the protesters in Tiananmen had willingly and intentionally engaged in a hunger strike as a way of trying to motivate the government to take action. But
Mhm.
I'd imagine that the Hong Kong protesters now surrendered as a way of avoiding a repeat of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or probably just so they can go home and take a shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe they called that in the documentary one of the points of no return,
Mm.
where the government and the protesters were kind of locked into
Yeah.
where they were, which
Right.
is kind of scary.
Right. Well,
Speaking
circling back to Netanyahu, I did find an article there. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is accusing his opponents of trying to carry out an attempted coup against him Thursday after being formally charged in a series of corruption cases.
okay, so he's turning the tables now.
So he said that so basically he's saying that there's probably more smoke than substance to these charges.
Yeah.
So so that's his defense. And so we'll see how it shakes out.
I guess we will.
Mhm.
Speaking of government, South Fork, our high school, just implemented a new program. What's it called, Landon?
The Turning Point USA program.
Wow. So what
It's
is that?
usually in colleges they'll have government clubs that form a small student government in a way, as like a better way for people to understand and get involved in government without actually getting involved in government,
Right.
so they can gain experience. And a lot of it is debating topics, current events, talking about things like a government would.
Mhm.
And we brought it to South Fork because there's a lot of students that have interest in government and political sciences, and one of our teachers adopted the program because he also thinks that it'd be good for the school and for the area, because not a lot of high schools, I don't
Yeah,
think.
exactly right. It's mostly a college program.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're not recognized as an official Turning Point branch yet. We're working on getting that, but until then we're really just getting our foot in the door with the school and trying to get involved.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Kind of reminiscent of our youth in government program, except that's
Exactly.
that's more of a high school program.
Yeah, youth in government is more like how governments work and how they operate.
Yeah.
Turning Point USA is how governments operate with regards to major topics like
Social issues.
social issues.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
debating social issues, and a lot of it is debating, actually just having conversations in class. And I know that we are planning on having open mics during our lunches so that people can come and we can have mini debates during lunch about major issues in our society.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, has this club been like running the whole year?
No, we just started a few weeks ago. We haven't even elected officers. Like there's there's a president, a treasurer, vice president, secretary.
Yeah.
We haven't elected those yet. That's next week. So we're really only just now getting started.
Wow. Oh, how exciting. Now, so Turning Point USA is a conservative organization. So,
I believe so, yeah.
yeah. So very good.
That's interesting because a lot of the students who are participating don't consider themselves conservative.
Well, the
in-
nice
by
thing
any
about
means.
Turning Point USA is that they want to have that conversation with liberals, conservatives, and libertarians.
Yeah.
It's just about having a conversation. It just happens to be a grassroots conservative think tank, for want of a better term. But it's not like they saying this is the conservative ideology and you need to think this way. They're just saying, here's our ideas. What do you think? and they
Yeah.
just want to have that conversation.
And I think that's really important to establish early on in life. Like, I think it's great that we're starting in high school, because in high school, most people don't have a political party per se,
Mhm.
and we haven't developed our political views fully.
Right.
So starting the conversation early on makes it so that later in life, we can have those conversations more in depth and become a more civilized society in terms of conversing about social issues. Because a big problem that I have seen is that people get so entrenched in their own ideas and their own thoughts that they won't even listen to anything else,
Mhm.
and it creates aggression and a lot of tension.
For sure.
It's tribalism, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we've said before, like instead of doing their own research and finding their own facts, they believe most popularly what their parents tell them, which
I was
is
just going to
interesting.
bring that up because
Yeah.
most kids will, they, of course, over the dinner table, you hear the conversations about what mom and dad are thinking, and that is fundamental in forming your thinking.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how you view the world.
Cool.
So, but and then sometimes you look at it and go, well, I agree with mom and dad. Or you go, not so much, mom and dad, but thanks for playing. Right.
Yeah.
But that's good. I mean, it's good to have those conversations over the dinner table.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. So stick with us.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hey, all right.
Cool.
All right. You did it. Good
So
job.
there's been some news in Syracuse University about
Up in New York.
yeah,
Not the one in Sicily.
nope, not
Okay.
that one.
All right.
But they're talking about these racist acts that are happening around the
Mhm.
campus, such
Mhm.
as graffiti and like posters and such.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't know exactly how many people are participating, but there's been at least 16 racist and biased episodes since November 6th, which is not that long ago, and it's been prompting a lot of protests around the campus buildings.
Protest against the graffiti.
Yeah,
Mhm. Okay.
because of
All
course
right.
it's offending a lot of people.
Well, of course. Yeah.
And they're mostly targeted towards the Jewish, African American, and Asian communities.
All right.
And yeah, one of the main talking points was a swastika drawn on a snowbank near an apartment complex where students live, and the alleged sharing of a white supremacist manifesto on Monday at a school library.
So one individual has been arrested, as so I understand.
Yeah,
From your
so
earlier
far.
research.
It's a female student.
Mhm.
She was arrested for criminal mischief in the 4th degree and making graffiti, both misdemeanors, but then she was released.
Right.
So that's
All right.
interesting.
Interesting indeed. So,
Mm.
so here's the thing with Google and phones. They know where all these graffitis took place,
Yeah.
and wherever you go with your phone, unless it's turned off, Google knows where you're at.
Oh, wow.
Right. So once they've arrested her, they probably took her phone for a few moments,
Mm-hmm.
downloaded some information. Now they can track her, or they can track her history. They have to get a court order from a judge,
Yeah.
but they can track her history, and if they can match her cell phone being where these events took place,
So they'll know who exactly
dun.
committed these.
yeah.
Yeah. Hate
So
crimes.
that's kind of an interesting. I mean, it's amazing how technology, you can kind of reverse engineer the process where
For
people
sure.
were. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of scary though.
It is.
Because I mean, for those of us who aren't making racist graffiti across a college campus,
Right.
I don't know about you, but I don't really like being tracked by Google.
No, and not only, but not it's so the data mining is phenomenal. So some of the research I've done is pretty scary, in that Google just could infer your whole lifestyle based upon where you go and what you know, and how long you stay at different places. Whether it's just your favorite restaurant, or hamburger place to hang out, right?
Mhm.
And then you start seeing pop-ups show up on your news feed
Yeah.
related to things that Google thinks might interest you.
That always freaks me out when I like see something online and I'm like, oh, this is cool, like a shirt or something.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'll be like doing my homework and there's that shirt that I was looking at popping up on an ad.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It's
scary.
not coincidental.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
And I know there's some like talk with the last election about how Facebook was like selling information or something.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
They did a mea culpa about that.
yeah. Mark Zuckerberg was under a lot of fire for a very long time about that. I believe he went to court for a long time about it too.
Really?
Yeah,
We went before Congress.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh man. Another instance of technology recording history, I guess. Uber decided to start audio recording rides as a safety measure, and riders and passengers won't be able to access the recordings. But
So Uber keeps it as their database. Yeah.
yeah,
Just to protect the probably could protect the passenger and or the driver.
yeah, because
Right.
there have been a lot more incidents recently in like college campuses, especially about how mostly girls, but people have been
Mistreated.
abducted,
Yeah.
mistreated,
Mm.
taken where they weren't supposed to go, I guess. and it's definitely becoming a big deal, which is why I think Uber has been taking a lot of steps towards becoming safer. But I mean, when you hire random people to drive for you, and then it's hard to completely regulate it, so that's it's difficult.
Well, that's interesting stuff.
The
Yeah.
concept of Uber is very interesting too, because generally people have a lot of trust issues and they have problems with getting into random strangers' cars.
Yeah.
But then these people put signs in their windshields and they join this fancy app and now it's fine.
Yeah.
And problems are coming up like the abuse and the abductions.
True.
And I mean, it's terrible, but is it really surprising?
Honestly, no.
It's not surprising.
I know, like, a lot of my friends' parents and my parents aren't really okay with me using Uber because there's kind of like a risk factor there. It is a random stranger's car, and I know in the past year or so they implemented like different safety features, like there's a help button when you're in the car with someone, and
good.
you can like press it if you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be or something. But there's only so much that can do,
Right.
So I guess this audio recording can help, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. Again, all things are good if they're used, properly.
Yeah.
It's the misuse of data and information is where people.
But that's also
issues.
similar. It's also similar to like how police officers have to have the body cams.
Yes.
True.
It's a great thing on paper, but it's easy to misuse it or you turn it off. Like there have been a lot of incidents where body cams on police officers either were turned off
Or just malfunctioned.
quote
In
unquote.
quotations.
And I think that may come up again with the Uber recordings, because with issues like this, if a person is willing to commit a crime like abduction or abuse of any kind, I doubt they're going to shy away from turning off a recorder.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think they will be able to turn off the recorder though. I think it's automatically implemented like in the app whenever you start a drive, because there's a statistic here. 103 Uber drivers have been accused of sexually assaulting and or harassing their passengers, and at least 31 have been convicted for crimes such as like forcible touching, false imprisonment, and rape.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big number.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one is one too many.
oh, for sure.
Right.
Such as like as I was saying before, they made different features, like you're able to dial 911 directly from the app and stuff. But I don't know. I don't think they will be able to turn the recording system off directly as a driver, considering that's
Well,
what.
hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
That would be kind of a unreasonable if they were able to, I guess.
Well, I got turned on to Uber when my wife and I were on vacation. We got left off. We had to catch a flight out of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And our bus tour left us off in a place called Newark. Actually, there's a Newark City in San
Yeah.
Francisco. I didn't know this, and it was like $100 cab ride from Newark to the airport. Well, we didn't want to do that, but we've got an Uber app while we're sitting in this Chinese restaurant, and $45 later, we're at the airport. So it was a
Definitely
good
much
deal.
cheaper,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, me and two friends actually traveled to South Africa over the summer, and that was our main source of transportation from our volunteering to our house and stuff.
All right,
That's
and we
pretty
got to
cool.
go.
Okay.
All righty. All right. Well, it's been a great
Bye.
show.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.